So about a year ago in 2020, I posted a top 5 list of all the books that I read that year. And so to keep the tradition going, I'm going to be posting a similar video today talking about my top 3 books of 2021. So I want to begin by talking about an honorable mention and one of the most enjoyable reads of the year, and that is DMT, The Spirit Molecule by Rick Strassman. This book covers obviously the endogenous hallucinogen that is DMT. It's the most powerful hallucinogen known, and it's really gotten famous over the last few years and popularized by people like Joe Rogan and Graham Hancock for its ability to take you into quite literally new worlds and give you experiences that you've never had before. Not only is the book very good academic writing, but Strassman's a good storyteller, and he retells a lot of these experiences that individuals had while taking DMT at his laboratory. He also mentions the potential connection of DMT to certain psychological disorders like schizophrenia. However, the main purpose of this book is to explore the potential therapeutic rationale for the drug, similar to what we've seen for the treatment of PTSD using other hallucinogens that are more mild like MDMA or psilocybin. Number 3 is actually the last book that I read in 2021, and that's Designing the Mind, which is a book that focuses on helping us rewire our cognitive and emotional biases. It repurposes many principles from cognitive behavioral therapy to help the reader get an idea of what exercises they can practice in their own lives to help rewire these cognitive biases. As far as cognitive and behavioral psychology goes, this book does not even come close to comparing to some of the legendary works such as Daniel Kahneman's Thinking Fast and Slow, or Robert Sapolsky's Behave. But what it does is repackages these ideas into an easy to understand way so that you can actually apply them to your everyday life. So out of all the books I've read ever, I'm pretty sure this one has taken the longest amount of time to read. It took over 40 hours, and I read it over the course of 3 months during the spring semester of 2021. And this book is Maps of Meaning by Jordan Peterson, something that I'd been wanting to get my hands on for a long time, but never felt ready to read it. And so this past year, I decided to jump into it. The purpose of this book is to help explain human behavior and psychology by looking at different mythological motifs and archetypes that have existed in the past. The major premise of this book is that we can look towards ancient civilizations and their ancient mythological stories for an understanding of what human life is all about, what we desire and what we need to live purposeful lives. This book was absolutely mind-blowing. I'll try and put some pictures up on the screen, but literally every sentence, almost every other sentence was highlighted with notes around it. And I think that's just a testament to how important and how interesting this book was. So for me personally, there are 2 things I didn't enjoy about this book, and I want to make sure that you know those before you decide on reading it or not. Number 1 is that Jordan Peterson's understanding of biology is a little bit lacking. He recognizes this as one of his kind of areas of weakness, but he does use biology in the book and he refers to it a lot. But the issue that I saw is that he doesn't refer to it nearly enough. He's interacting with these ideas. A lot come from like Carl Jung or similar individuals who have an extensive background in biology. I feel like that's necessary for fully understanding their theories in order to apply them to today, what Jordan Peterson is trying to do. The second big issue is that at least 80% of the book I had to read twice. That's why it took so long to get through it. It's about 500 pages, but I'm telling you, at least 400 of those pages, I literally had to just start over and read it again because I didn't understand it. And I know that he's dealing with extremely complicated topics, and they are difficult to communicate. But I think even the smartest individuals should be able to find a way to explain something in pretty simple terms. And I'm not saying that the whole book has to be dumbed down for an audience. I understand this is a textbook, but even in textbooks that I've read, there's at least areas of that book that are dedicated to just summarizing the information in ways that are a little bit easier to understand. And he does this occasionally, but I think that would really help the reader understand it at a deeper level. And it's something you have to mention if you're going to recommend this book to other people. Now, with that being said, this was still a fantastic book, and I would highly recommend it. So my number 1 book for 2021 was actually a book that I was required to read for my cognitive psychology course, and that is Next of Kin by Roger Fouts. So as far as mind-blowing stuff, this book has to be on the top of anybody's list. It exposed me to a world that I never even knew existed, and that's the world of teaching chimpanzees how to communicate using language. And so this book specifically follows this young chimp named Washoe and the researchers Roger Fouts and and I think there's a few others. There's a lot of people that all take care of Washoe, and they're trying to teach her sign language. And this is in opposition to what previous research groups had done, trying to directly teach them to recognize language in the spoken form. But what they did was teach them sign language, because chimpanzees tend to communicate with their hands. And so for me, the narrative aspect of the book was not that great. I think it'd be interesting to a lot of people, but personally, I cared more about the research stuff. And the research stuff was so amazing that it didn't matter that, some chunks of the book weren't that fascinating to me. The research made up for it. So I don't want to spoil this book for anybody that decides to read it, but I want to mention two things in the book that I thought were absolutely mind-blowing and that will give you an idea of what this book is all about. And so there's one chapter, I think, where Roger Fouts is reflecting on watching Washoe play with her dolls. So Washoe's left by herself, and she's playing with her dolls, and eventually she starts signing to them, signing to herself. Just like we have a voice in our head that talks to us, just like we can communicate with things in our environment, even if it's in a playful, kind of a fake way, this chimpanzee could do the exact same thing. She had that level of consciousness, of self-awareness, of those cognitions, and that just blew my mind. Similarly, at the dinner table, Roger and Washoe had a very unique relationship, and Washoe would pick on Roger all the time, but also there's kind of some boundaries. So if Washoe was ever sad, she would make sure that it was known to other people. She would sign, "I'm sad," and she would act differently, and her level of communication was unbelievable, and it paralleled that of humans in similar stages of development. Also, there were many times Washoe exemplified these moral behaviors, like saving other chimpanzees or helping Roger do just menial tasks. So at first, this book was not my number one for the year, but the more that I kind of sat with it and thought about it, it was just crazy how much that shifted my worldview about not only chimpanzees, but about humans in general, and how much we are truly related. This was an incredible book for me, and I would highly recommend picking that up. And it's written for somebody that doesn't have an extensive background in biology. It's written for the everyday person. So again, highly recommend that book. But with that being said, that's kind of the end of my list, but I want to hear your list. What were your top books for this year? Are there any book recommendations that you think I'd be interested in? If so, leave them down in the comment section below. Thanks for watching this video. I'll see you on the next one.